The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
Like always on a Wednesday morning, Drew Trafton joins us here on Hot Mic.
Hey.
I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. How you been, man?
Great. It's great to see you, Sam. Great to see you, Eric. It's
Great
nice.
to see you.
It's good to have this time.
I know, right?
You know?
It was long overdue, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like of course, when I was working during the day, I would see you every once in a while in the morning, and
Just
then
kinda passing
yeah,
ships.
just kind of
Yeah.
passing by. But I've been following along with what you're doing, and how is everything going over there?
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just getting the ball rolling. So the first couple of weeks was a lot of setup of, different projects and kind of laying out, what we can do initially and those sorts of things. And today we're actually rolling out one of the first things that I'm putting out there, which is sports germane. I'm apologizing in advance if I cough during this interview. I'm dealing with cottonwoods. Like crazy allergic to cottonwoods. So I've got water and all of that if I can't make it through. But yeah, so we're launching a series today called Off the Record.
Okay.
And the premise of the series is we're talking to newsmakers who are relevant for whatever reason. And we're taking the news portion of it out. So kind of counterintuitive to what we normally do.
Yeah.
So we want to get to know the human beings, who are, involved in our very critical decision making, throughout our community, whether that's, school superintendents, police chiefs. And today's subject had a big night last night. Kelly Armstrong. So our current congressman in North Dakota, Kelly Armstrong, I think he's been elected 3 times over.
Yep.
But now he's won the primary for North Dakota's governor nomination for the Republican Party. And so he's moving on to the general election. And, so we just sat down and talked with him about his general interests. We purposely couched policy. We purposely couched work for the most part. But, that ekes in every now and then because that's part of, your life. Mm-hmm. And so, but we only talk to that to its relevant points in his other interests.
Right.
I brought a clip along if you guys want to check it out.
Yeah, if we got it back, let's roll that real quick. And
I can't imagine you have a lot of free time on the nights that you do have off, but do you enjoy watching any television shows or streaming anything?
So I generally view my world in hobbies are kids, hunting, baseball, movies, music, and I used to love to play poker. I still love to play poker. I just don't get to play as much anymore.
What's your game?
My game, Omaha High-Low is my favorite game. It's not played a lot in all of those places. But, I grew up around deer camp poker tables, but played a lot of Hold'em throughout the course. I've actually cashed in a World Series of Poker event. Not the main event, but a World Series event. And so we used to play a lot of cards. I think baseball and poker give you a really good idea of game theory, which helps you it helped me in criminal defense. It also in my previous career, but it helps you a lot in politics. And that is, you can play. You can execute a plan, but the other people have a say in how that plan is going to be developed, and so that helps a lot for how you do some of the stuff.
That is super cool.
Yeah,
you don't get it. You wouldn't know that unless you're a close friend or a family member.
Right. And we work in an environment where we've covered him for years and years. Mm-hmm. I had no idea that he was interested in poker.
Right.
Let alone had, traveled and played in a World Series event, and I thought that was really neat. He also, since this is a sports show, he talked a lot about his interest in baseball. Mm-hmm. He grew up playing baseball. And then during college, he went and he coached in Dickinson, the American Legion. Yep. He was very tied into American Legion. He was eventually the president of that operation and kind of ran American Legion in Dickinson. And, a lot of his philosophy is shaped around baseball and his favorite parts about baseball and how you interact with people and, the character that it builds and, just his philosophy around team building in particular, I thought was really fascinating because he talked about the idea that in baseball, a less talented team is more than capable of beating, a team that has really talented individual hitters or pitchers. Like there are more tools at your disposal to get that done.
Right.
And, even his philosophy, we broke it down even to pitching, where he was talking about, like I had this one kid who, high strikeout, high walks, right? Like that's what he would do. But then, what would happen is the defense behind him would get really sloppy, so we had to talk about, he would work very slowly and methodically because it was either a strikeout or a walk, basically. Right. And, that's how they got their outs. But in those moments then where all of a sudden you call in your team to help you out, if you're working that slowly, like they might not be as sharp or into it, they kind of get lulled into complacency.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was a really, really great conversation. It's about 20 minutes. It's going to get posted in the next 10 minutes here and you can find it streaming exclusively on WDAY Plus. So that's our streaming app. So if you want to watch the whole episode, that's where you go. And you can download that if you have like a smart TV, like a Roku. You can download it there. You can download it on your phone. And, you get live news, live weather. We have all of our sports that you can pay for with a subscription. And we have a lot of premium content, documentaries, other series that you can watch behind that paywall as well. This series is going to be free. So this episode's totally free. Again, it's about 20 minutes long. And I learned a lot about a guy who I thought I knew quite a bit about. Right. So it was very, it was very informing.
Well, that's super cool. What's the name of the segment again?
Yeah. So the series is called Off the Record.
Off the Record.
Yeah. So it's definitely a play on that concept and that idea of, people have this idea when you work in news or sports that, say, hey, can I tell you something off the record? Right. And that's not exactly how it works in real life, but this, it was a concept that we thought people could get behind and kind of understand, the premise without having to explain too much about it.
Well, you touched on the WDAY Plus app, and of course with the news that we've been following this morning with the Tier 2 television contract, Forum Communications Company, and the NDHSAA. Talk about how big that app is and how relevant that's going to be, even more than it is now, and it is pretty relevant now because it's a one-stop shop for a lot of information.
Yeah. Again, news, weather, sports, and more. And the thing with bringing Tier 2 on board is we're going to get this. And I don't want to step on, I know your next guest.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
And I don't want to steal his thunder. Because he signs a lot of checks in this building.
Don't blame you.
He I think it gives us another platform to actually show this content. We've never been able to, and there's no local media company that can even come close to having the bandwidth to put all of these sports and give all of these athletes the attention that they have not yet received. And so we're going to be able to do that. Obviously on terrestrial TV, WDAY, WDAY Extra, our sub channels, like you can only show so much of that content. There's only so much space, so many hours in a day. Right. And so having Plus available, that gives you the option of what you want to watch, when you want to watch it, how you want to watch it, all of those things that streaming apps provide that kind of give you that, just more convenience, but also just another platform, that gives you another place to put this content.
Right. Exactly. So we're really excited about that news. We're excited about what you're doing. Off the Record isn't the only thing you got in the book. No, what else are you working on?
So we're working on a 4-part news series that I'm gonna have rolling out over the next couple of weeks. I don't want to talk too much about that, but it's interesting.
Okay. Secretive.
We'll have some pieces on WDAY that you can watch that will kind of accompany that, and then the whole thing will live on WDAY Extra. Or on Plus, sorry, and I'm getting used to this. going from TV to streaming. There's a lot of shifting in my mind there, and then we're working right now on a really interesting true crime documentary. Okay, it's a missing persons case in Minnesota that's turning 50, and we're going to be revisiting it. We're talking to, in the next couple of days, we're going to go down to where this happened and talk to family members, friends, neighbors of the prime suspect. There's it's this unsolved case, and it's really intriguing. I don't want to give too many details away right now.
No, I don't blame you.
As we're working forward on this, but we've done a lot of work on timelines of both the suspect and the disappearance. And, we're piecing together a lot of things. And there's been a lot of work done already in our company. There's a podcast that you can go to if you want to learn more about this right now. It's about Belinda Van Lith. So if you just search her name on our websites, you'll find the whole podcast series, or if you go where podcasts are listened to. And we're actually, that just came out a few months ago. But in that time between that podcast release and now, there have been so many huge developments, and then we're going to be able to kind of take that next step in this documentary that we're working on and kind of update people on what's been happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
You got a lot of stuff going on over there.
Yeah, it's very fun. And that speaks to nothing of, we're working ahead on some sports stories that, some longer form sports stories that will be really interesting, where we hopefully talk to, high school, I want to talk to athletes. I want to talk to athletes from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, even more recently about, what was the greatest game you remember that your team played? Like, I want to hear those local stories. What teams stand out? What school sports stand out? What games were played on fields or arenas? Yeah. I want to hear all of that. And so feel free to contact me.
Oh, yeah.
You can find me on social media. You can find me on email, drewtrafton@clickcontentstudios.com. And just let me know. And I'd be happy to tell your story.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, this is exciting. Can't wait to watch all that. Eric, you got anything for Drew before we go to break?
Before we go, Dom usually talks to you about uniforms.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a big.
I mean, Sam and I haven't touched on it yet.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Twins City Connects?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying that they belong in Milwaukee or Miami and even a little bit of Seattle.
Yeah, the color scheme definitely smacks of the Brewers for sure. I get what they were doing. Like, I think the whole water imagery makes. I mean, that's what people know Minnesota for. So that makes a ton of sense. And I like that they put the state on the hat. One like criticism that my father-in-law has, who's a lifelong Twins fan, is he's from outer Minnesota, greater Minnesota, if you will. But he's lived in the cities for decades and decades, but he loves feeling like the team is the state's team.
Yeah.
And so having that imagery of the state outline on the hat, I think works really well. I don't know if that concept is like fully baked. It's a little simplistic. Like, why not do like splotches of different lakes, on the uniform or, something where it really stands out? Because to me, like, the City Connect is the opportunity to really get a little harebrained and a little wild and have that space for that uniform set.
Right.
But as with all of these City Connect uniforms, I feel like when I see them on the field, that's when they grow on
Right,
me.
exactly.
Like, I don't think I've seen one, just like images of one where I was like, that is perfect. It's like seeing it on the field, that's when it really like clicks for me. So I'll reserve judgment. I was underwhelmed, I'd say, overall.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I wasn't a huge fan of the yellow. I mean, it makes sense where they're coming from. It's just a total push away from their usual colors and not having those implemented. Granted, they don't really follow along with water and sun and but you're exactly right. I'm the same way. I think you got to wait and see them on the field, and then we can make more of a
Are you going to get confused about who to root for if it's like a Brewers Twins series and they bust those out?
The funny thing is they're actually wearing them when they play the Brewers.
So it's everybody's
going to be like, now can we get the Brewers powder blue City Connects with the Twins?
Yeah.
And put those on the field together?
Man, you're not going to know like who's doing what.
I'm going to be like, which team am I supposed to root for here? Because my wife is a lifelong Twins fan, and I've kind of grown into the minute because I can root for the Twins because they don't play the Brewers. They play the Brewers 4 times a year, so it's easy to root for the Twins.
Yeah.
And one thing I do like about the City Connects is underneath the hat, bro, they have the lake. They have a lake effect.
Yeah.
And Byron Buxton, I think I read this, if I remember this correctly, he said he liked that because it's something different. Nobody
totally different.
thought to put anything underneath the hat.
Yeah.
Like, you can't see it, but when you go to the store, and the merch is always better than the uniforms.
It totally is. It totally is. And I thought, like, take that concept, like the under the bill lake, and like splotch like just different lakes on the uniforms, like maybe they don't even have to be all the same one, like maybe they could all be different lakes, like spots on an animal or something.
These still aren't the worst City Connect uniforms I've ever
not by
seen.
a mile.
No,
they're perfectly fine. They're just
middle of the pack.
Yeah, they're just underwhelming.
The Padres have by far the worst uniforms. The multicolored. Like, what are we doing?
Too much going on there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll reserve judgment, Drew. We'll cut you loose. But thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Really happy with what you're doing, and that Off the Record should be on the app right now. It's past 9:30.
All right.
So go ahead.
Keep an eye out.
Give that a look. Drew Trafton from Forum Content Manager. That's the new title, right?
Yeah, that's the new title.
All right.
That's what they tell me anyway.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us. Back here next Wednesday. So
yeah, looking forward to it.
All right,
Thanks,
sounds good. Drew Trafton from the Forum. A lot more to talk about coming up after the break. Josh Rohr, the Vice President of Broadcast, is going to join us. We'll continue on with Hot Mike when we come back.